Hey everybody, this is Marlan, and welcome to my tutorial on the Marvel Heroic role-playing game. Chances are you already know me, and I've been talking up this game for a while. You may have even been involved in the game already. So I'm just going to run down the rules. They're pretty easy, so this should be pretty basic. The game is like any other role-playing game, tabletop role-playing game like Dungeons and Dragons. The rules are different. They're a little simpler, and it lends itself to making something more like a comic book, at least in my experience. And I like to think of it as a story. It's a story that I, as the watcher, as the guy that controls everything, kind of the same thing as a dungeon master, a games master. I've got an idea in mind. I've got a road that we can go down, and the main characters are played by the players. Everyone picks a character. Hopefully it's your favorite character in the Marvel Universe, and you're part of that game. I'm going to put out stuff for you to challenge you, go up against, and go through like a real adventure, just like a real comic book. So at least that's the idea. I'm going to go through the rules. A lot of the stuff is available online. I can get the basic book to you, just ask. A lot of this stuff, I think people have already even put together videos, YouTube videos. And I know there's a lot of text and resources and stuff that you can look up, and I invite you to find that stuff. It might even know better than I do. I'm learning this game just like everybody else. But I've run a few sessions, and I have my own campaign now on the RPOL site, which everybody should be signed up for. That's where I'm running this game. So these rules will lean a little more towards posting on that site. It should be exactly the same as if you were going to play in person or play by email or however other way you play. But I might throw in a few things for the RPOL message board sites. We'll just see as we go along. But I'm going to go over the rules. If you have any other questions or comments, if any of this is contradictory, if you have some ideas, anything else you want to throw in, please don't hesitate to contact me, or I guess you could leave a comment on the YouTube site here, and I'll probably get it, but I'd rather just do it through the game. As we go along, I don't know what kind of comments that I'll get on YouTube. I guess I'll just take my lumps, but this is also my first YouTube video, so bear with me. Anyway, I'll use some examples from the book, but this won't really be so much of a visual thing. I'm just taking a video just so you can see it. Maybe it'll be a little easier to comprehend for you. And to get down all the rules and everything. It's pretty easy, but you have to think of it a little bit differently than you do most other role-playing games, definitely most other games. So, in the game, always think of it as a story, that we're telling a story, everybody's all together, and we're telling a story. There's interactions between all sorts of characters, between the player characters, the heroes, and the non-player characters, the NPCs, which are the villains, and the supporting characters, and whoever else comes up in the story that I throw in there. Some of it can be done narratively, that everyone's just talking, going back and forth, and you can say what you're doing, what your character's doing. Think of it as a story. If you look on the RPOL site, there's a certain format that we're using. Everything's everything's written in first person. Everything's in third person. Everything's in the present tense. It just kind of gives it a little bit more of a feel. But we're basically just all writing a story together. And a lot of that can just be done post by post. You say what you're going to do, what's going to go on. You have a little bit of latitude to kind of control the world around you, as long as it doesn't, step on my toes, because there's plenty of stuff that I have planned. But there will be times where you have to do something that is not just automatic, something that's challenged and opposed. So when you are opposed, you need to... That's when the rules come in, and you put together what is known as a dice pool. And your character has certain stats, certain statistics that are in a data file. You'll see in a second. And that tells you what you can, what you can do, kind of not so much what you can't do, but all the characters, pretty much all the characters have weaknesses. It says how powerful you are, how well you can do things, and that kind of thing, and not just physically, but mentally and even emotionally as well. So the first thing that you do is you declare a dice pool that you're going to do something on the message board. You can usually just go ahead and put together your dice pool and even roll, which is fine if you know exactly what you're doing, and we can assume that there's not going to be a problem with it. If there is a problem with it, if you don't get it exactly right, especially the first few times, don't freak out. It's totally cool. I don't even ask anybody to go through and really change what they've done, especially after you roll. You kind of can't go back and change stuff because that would affect the roll. But basically, I'll just correct it, or I'll mention it in my next post, which my reaction to you, and I'll say, well, maybe you can't do this. Keep track of this in the future. You'll see it. But generally, what you do is not going to be cataclysmic, and chances are it's not going to ruin my story and throw things all off the rails and everything. It's usually probably not going to be a big deal. Even if you get a turn or get an action that succeeds where maybe it shouldn't, it's probably not going to screw things up. It's not that big a deal. It's a story. We're going to keep rolling with it. Before you put together a dice pool, the first few times, or even after that, feel free to email me what you intend to do, or send me a message through the game. I'm happy to look at it, and I'll give you suggestions or point out anything that's wrong or anything at all. This game isn't about the games master or the watcher who controls all the bad guys trouncing the heroes. That's not what I'm about. Me killing off heroes would not give me a lot of heroes left to put in my story. So, especially what happens in the comics, have a healthy caution of what could go wrong, but you're a superhero. You're probably going to survive the adventure. And this also isn't a game where accidental deaths happen easily. I'm not going to roll one really good roll and be able to wipe you out. That's not my intention anyway. I'm not a watcher who wants to kill everybody off, even to prove a point. There certainly is death in the game, in this campaign, in this world that we're creating, but you'll probably be okay. So go ahead and put together your dice pool and go ahead and roll with it and see what happens. If we were playing in person, you'd have dice and you would roll those dice. On the message boards, there is a dice roller component. It should be at the top of the browser. Click on that. It looks a little complicated. It's not. There's only 2 or 3 boxes that you even need to use. Fill that out. I suggest, if you have dice, even if it's like say you're rolling a 2d8, I always recommend doing d8, d8. It makes it a lot easier when you roll it out. You'll see what I'm talking about. Maybe I'll do a tutorial a little later about that. But for right now, just kind of get the idea of these rules and how to put together a dice pool. Look for how everybody else puts their posts together. In their posts, everyone kind of has their own format of how they like to do it. As long as you get the information in there, it doesn't really matter how you do it. Just look at what anybody else has, and that's probably fine. Maybe ape somebody, or even ape what I did, and just go along with that. That's probably fine. If there's a choice between putting in too much detail and putting in too little detail, lean towards putting in too much detail. You can never go wrong with really explaining what you're doing. You can't really go too far with it. It could be a long post, but that's fine. We'll just we'll scroll through it, and as long as you have all the information there, it should be fine. So, that said, I will go through in how to put together a dice pool. This is also go through your stats and kind of show you around how the characters are built. On the RPOL site, you'll have, once you sign up for a character and we've approved it and everything, then there will be, in the character details, I believe, you'll have your character sheet there, and it'll be all your character, all the stats and everything, pretty much from the book. I've gone through and typed out most of the character sheets, definitely for whatever you're using. If you make changes to the character over time, yes, it will be reflected in the character details, and that will take precedence over whatever is in the book or whatever else anything is. So you will have that resource. Your character basically your character sheet will be available to you. Paw around the message boards, and you'll be able to find it. It'll be there once that's your character and you've been assigned that character. You'll have your information there. It won't look as pretty as what I'm about to show you, but use your imagination. So every character has a data file, and it's basically their character sheet and their stats. You can kind of see a little better here. This is the basic book, and chances are, if you're starting out, you're probably using one of the characters from this basic book, or maybe the Civil War book, or somewhere else. But you're going to be using a character that's pretty much from the book. Other characters that other people might want to put together. People put together their own characters and their own sheets and their own heroes, and they put them online. You do a Google search and you can probably find, I think, pretty much every character in the Marvel Universe. You'll probably find some Transformers, G.I. Joes, probably most of the entire DC Universe. People put this stuff together. And it's all a resource that we all have available. I doubt we're going to see any Transformers in this campaign, but you never know. No, actually you do know. There won't be any Transformers in this campaign. He said suspiciously. If you're looking up a character online, I don't think you'll be able to find any that has been in one of the books. I think they've for rights stuff, they've got all that locked down, and whatever's in the book is probably not going to be available online. But those characters are, like I said, I've transcribed the stuff from the characters from the books and put it in, typed it all up, so it's available for use, which I think is okay. But if there's a character that you really want to play, let me know. If it's part of the Marvel Universe, and it makes sense in the story, we could maybe work it out. I'm really not wanting anyone to play any characters that anybody has made up. This is a very, very straight Marvel Universe, meat and gravy type Marvel game. It's kind of one of it's as straight as Marvel as I can do, which is what appeals to me, and it's the campaign that I'd like to run. There might be some characters here and there that might be made up, but pretty much I'm trying my best to make this all Marvel Universe based. That said, we're taking different characters from different places, different other parts of continuity, and kind of fitting in stuff wherever we want to put it. There might be references to newer stuff, might be references to older stuff. I haven't really decided if Secret Wars, the original Secret Wars in the 80s, has happened. We're just kind of picking and choosing, cherry picking whatever we want to use and moving around. Did that just flip? Okay. Just kind of picking and choosing whatever we want to use. And just kind of working out the universe ourselves as we go along, which has worked really well so far. So anyway, if you have ideas for characters or encounters, some other ideas for the universe, let me know. This campaign is taking place on Earth. We're not doing any cosmic stuff, though. If you're interested in an Annihilation game, let me know and I can probably hook you up. So like I said, these are the data sheets, and I'm going to go through most of the stuff. I think it'll take less time than the 14 minutes I've gone already. I'm just going to go down and kind of explain what's going on here. So you can see there's some characters, but I'm going to use Captain America as my example. So when you put together a dice pool, you're going to pick one die from each of these power sets. You'll generally get one from each. Sometimes, every once in a while, there might be less. Every once in a while, there might be some more. And of course, usually your dice pool is going to change pretty much every post, every action, because of other things that happen as you go along. First, before you even put together a dice pool, you have to declare what you're doing. Are you throwing a punch? Are you trying to outsmart somebody at a computer? Are you trying to intimidate somebody, scare somebody? Obviously, each of those is going to have a different dice pool, depending on how well you do what you're trying to do. So declare what you're going to do. To make it easy, decide if it's going to be a physical attack, a mental attack, or an emotional attack. Pretty much everything is an attack. I guess it's really just a roll, because an attack. It could also just be that you're trying to create something, or trying to, not really trying to hurt somebody so much as you're just trying to do something that does not have a guaranteed outcome. So declare what you're going to do. This is usually, especially as you're writing it out in the narrative, this will be pretty much, it'll be pretty automatic. It'll be pretty obvious, in the narrative that, Captain America moves towards the villain and throws a punch. You really don't have to spell that out, but, just maybe note, hey, it's a physical attack. So let's put together a dice pool. So each of these, you'll see each of these, the 6, the 8, and the 10 all kind of have this little symbol. These all correspond to a different die. So if you have a die, a D6, what we call this a D6, or D8, or a D10 in your dice pool, that is a die. That's a certain die. So D4, D8, as you go along. Each of these corresponds to that. In these really cool data files, you'll even have the symbol. That's that's to correspond to a D6 die, a D8 die, a D10 die, etc. And there's D12 too. So it goes D4, D6, D8, D10, and D12. There is no D20 before you ask. So when you put together your dice pool, pretty much every one of them is going to go like this. At least the ones kind of starting off before we get too complicated. First, affiliations. This is probably the easiest one. Super easy. If your hero is by themselves, you're solo. If they have a buddy, just one person with them, they're a buddy. If they are in a team, that's a D10. So you can add one of those. You always add one of those. A team is defined as you have 2 or more allies. This can also count as if you have a telepathic link set up, or you have some kind of solid communication between you and your allies. It's generally everybody who's in one room or some area that are within communicating distance. So basically 3 or more. I guess the same thing with buddy too. There are times when you may be able to pick between the 2, but generally it's going to be pretty clear cut if who is affiliated with you at the time. Sometimes it may not be a die that you prefer, D6 versus D10, but that's what you have to go with. So that's your first die. Your second one, and this is one that will always be in there, is a distinction. This is the kind of most complicated part out of all of these, but if you just remember that you're either using it positively or negatively, it gets a lot easier. So a distinction, you've got your 3 distinction here, and every character in this game has 3 distinctions. And in these distinctions, you decide when you roll if you're going to use these positively or negatively. Positively, most of these sound pretty positive anyway. So Cap, if he wanted to use it positively, he, pretty much every dice roll he could do would be Sentinel of Liberty. I'm Captain America. I'm the Sentinel of Liberty. Let's go. You're using it positively, use a D8. Throw that in there. Now, if you want to use it negatively, you will get a D4 instead. Also using it negatively, it's kind of whatever distinction you have that you can stretch that is just going to affect you in a negative way. Every scene, every adventure that you're in, and every scene is going to have at least probably 3 scene distinctions. And these scene distinctions will be something like flaming building, or wide open street, or night sky, or something like that. It's something that kind of sets the mood. But you can also use that in your distinctions. Sometimes there might be more, I might add more as we go along, but generally you'll have at least 3 distinctions. So you've got a number of distinctions to choose from. With the scene distinctions, that makes it a little easier, because you can say, hey, I'm in a fiery building, and I'm going to use that negatively. It's hard for me to, punch the Red Skull, or the Mandarin or whoever if I'm in a flaming building. So, so you would throw in your D4 into your pool if you're using it negatively. The upside is that you get a +1 plot point, and a plot point is kind of the currency that you use as we go along, and it helps you do stuff, and you earn it as you go along, and it can be very, very helpful. So just always decide whether you're going to use your distinction positively or negatively. Kind of stretch it a little bit, be a little creative with it. Generally, it'll work. I'm not going to try to mess up whatever, purposely try to mess up what you're doing just to mess you up. So just remember distinctions, positive or negatively, pick one of those. So the next two are power sets. Power sets and specialties are both fairly similar. You're going to pick one of each of your power sets, and you can use one die from each. So if you have two power sets like Cap does, because he has a shield and also his super soldier program, you can pick one of each. Granted, if it makes no sense that there's one you can't use, if Cap throws away his shield or something, then you can't use that. So you pick your power that's going to contribute the most to whatever you're trying to aim. If Cap is trying to punch somebody out, he would probably use enhanced strength. If he's trying to dodge out of the way, or he's trying to jump through a hoop or something, enhanced reflexes. He's trying to hold his breath underwater or something, and you need to roll for that, enhanced stamina as you go along. Down here, you could use godlike durability if he's defending or roll someone attacking him. He can use his shield as a D8 weapon, and you can put that into your dice pool. The way the powers also change a little bit is that each of them, most of them have SFX, and even if your character doesn't really have technically powers, they'll generally have SFX. It kind of adds a little bit of flavor to your powers. There's also limits that can put a little bit of vulnerability in there. SFX cost a plot point only if it says they cost a plot point. You'll see spend 1 PP or spend 1 PP or whatever. If it doesn't say to spend a plot point, then generally you're okay and go ahead and use it. Generally, you might be able to use more than one at a time. But most... Alright, I cut off there for a second. Hopefully, well, if you're seeing this, I've edited it together, though I have no idea how I'm going to do that now. Alright, I'm going to continue on just like I was. Generally, the SFXs aren't going to work together, but and generally you'd be spending a lot of plot points to use a lot of them, since when it does say to spend a plot point, then to spend a plot point. So, but I think generally a lot of them do. So use whatever power makes sense. Put it all together. And yeah, so the specialties operate a lot like that, a lot in the same way. Pick whatever one seems to go best with what the dice pool that you're rolling. If Cap's dodging out of the way, use acrobatic expert. If he's punching somebody, he'd use combat master. Trying to outsmart somebody, psych expert, that kind of thing. Trying to drive a vehicle. So there you go. Also with the specialties, you can break those down. Instead of a D8, you can have a D6, or master, you can have instead of a D10, you could have a D8 or a 3D6. That can be useful. Try it out, see what works. So now that you've got a dice pool together, you will roll. I'll go through the book and just show you some other characters here. So you go ahead and roll. You roll all your dice. One of the absolute, clear-cut, etched in stone rules, probably the most important rule in the entire game is whenever you roll a 1, do not add it to your total. It is not possible to have 2 dice in this game and roll a 2. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely never, ever, ever add a 1 to your total. If you imagine it as a bunch of dice that are rolled, you are removing that die from the pool. If they're all 1s, that's a bummer, but that means you probably spectacularly failed. When you roll a 1, be sure to tell me, the watcher, that you rolled a 1 and how many you rolled. That becomes an opportunity. When you roll a 1 and it becomes an opportunity, you will get more than likely 1 plot point. Sometimes it'll be 1 plot point for multiple 1s that are rolled. And the watcher will add... I can't stand Colossus. The watcher will add dice to his doom pool. Just like you have plot points, the watcher has a doom pool that starts out at, usually starts out at 2d6, and the watcher adds to it. The watcher can take dice from that and use those just like you use your plot points, puts them together, and can do other stuff with it. It kind of simulates there being more danger as the adventure goes along, and it gives the watcher some more flexibility to do other stuff. So throw some other danger in there, and have some fun with it. So you roll. So you roll your dice pool. In your dice pool, you're going to pick out 2 dice. Those 2 dice are going to be your total. You take that total, and that you take those dice, you add them up, and it becomes your total. It could be 3. It could be, I reckon, all the way up to 24 with 2 dice, depending on what you're rolling. So you have your total. Declare what your total is. You'll see it in a setup of a dice pool that you have to roll in the game on the posts that there should be towards the end that it'll say total. There's also a space for the effect. Now the effect is another dice. So you're basically in a very base sense, you're looking for 3 dice. You're looking for 2 for a total, and you're looking for 1 for the effect. The effect is essentially how well you did what you were trying to do. Your effect, your total might be low, your effect might be high, or vice versa. Your effect die, whatever it is that you choose as your effect die, doesn't matter what was rolled on the effect die. It could be the very lowest, not a 1, remember, or it could be the very highest. It doesn't matter. Just whatever your effect die is, we just want to know what the die is. So you'd have a total that is a number, usually from 3 to 24. And your effect die is going to be a d4, d6, d8, d10, or d12. There can also be d12 plus, which means you got well over a 12. A d12, that's exceptionally well done. So if you only have 2 dice left, and that's going to be your total, your default for the effect is d4. So you can never get like a 0 in your effect. You'll always have at least a d4. Your total could be, you might even only get 1 die for your total. It could happen that you have a 0. I've never seen that, but as long as you have, usually 1 die, that's going to be your total. Now, this is where using plot points comes in. With your plot points, there's a number of things you can do with your plot points. After you roll, you could use 1 plot point to add an extra die to your total. You can take one of the other dice that you didn't use, that you set aside, again, that is not a 1, and add that to your roll. You could use a plot point to throw in an extra effect die. So you could have, 2 d8s. This usually happens if you're trying to hit like more than 1 person at a time. So you could hit 2 people. You can change your stress type. You might have been doing a physical attack, and you can change it to mental. So that's a way to use a plot point. Another way to use a plot point is you can throw in an extra trait. Ask me about that later. Another popular thing is to use a push die. You can use, when you're putting together a dice pool, you can automatically, for no reason at all, throw in a d6 if you spend a plot point. No reason at all, just throw in a d6. Now keep in mind that d4s, with a d4, you have a 25% chance coming up with a 1, an opportunity. With a d6, you have a 1 in 6 chance. So you may not necessarily voluntarily want to throw in a lot of d6s, but it's up to you. You might really need it. If you want to turn that push die into a power stunt, it goes up to a d8. Come up with a reason why, you have a power stunt. Something that connects to one of your other powers, and it's, you could say you're pushing one of your powers to add that to your dice pool. That's totally cool too. Another thing that you can add to your dice pool along those lines of spending a plot point is when the watcher rolls an opportunity. When the watcher rolls a 1, in my dice pool, I will announce that. It will be in the post. It'll say how many opportunities are available. Generally, when you are in some kind of conflict with another character, that would be where you would use the opportunity, just between the two of you, or multiple, whatever it is. But if the conflict that's going on, if they're not going to use one of the opportunities, it kind of goes out to the rest of the players, and someone else can pick it up. If you pick up an opportunity, again, a 1 that the watcher rolled in this way, then you can use it as a d8. So your push die, instead of a d6, becomes a d8. Or you can also, if you want to make that into a power stunt, you can make that a d10. Again, this is you spend a plot point to do that. There is, especially in my game, there is a maximum of 5 plot points that you can have at a time. Please keep that in mind. When you roll and you have your effect die from whatever you rolled, it can be stress, it can be a complication, it can be an asset. Try to think of it this way: when you're rolling a dice pool, and there's something that you're trying to accomplish, something you're trying to do, try to think of it as you're creating something. You're creating stress on an opponent, which stress is basically damage. Or you're trying to create an asset. You could be just trying to, scope out the area and trying to get a sense of it. So you're making an asset that's called scoping out the area or something like that. And so once you roll that, and you're going to be rolling against the Doom pool that I mentioned earlier, the Doom pool that is the running tally of what the Watcher has. You'll roll against the Doom pool. If you succeed, if your total is higher than what the Doom pool is, what the Doom pool rolls, then you can use your effect. And your effect will be how much stress you inflict or how strong your asset is that you create, that kind of thing. Just think of your effect die as creating something. And putting that into the game. Another thing that you can add to your dice pool is when your opponent has stress. This will be, I'm going to keep a running tally, you'll see it on one of the other threads, of all the characters that are involved in the scene, and beside their name there will be a stress, or if there's a complication. That's another thing you can make as a complication. Say you're trying to blind somebody and the roll succeeds, so now they have a D8 blinded. So when anyone else does something against them, they get to add that D8 to their dice pool. And you can use, I think you can use a stress and a complication in the same dice pool against somebody. I'm pretty sure you can. You should be able to. If there's multiple stress, you don't get to use all the stress. You just get to use the highest one, or whichever one you're using. So something else. Okay, so when you roll against another character, that other character gets to roll against you as well. And this will be you when somebody attacks you in that way. So that other character puts together their dice pool, and it goes along the exact same way. if someone's attacking you, you're going to put together your affiliation die, your distinction die. It runs all exactly the same. When you're defending, you can use a distinction. You can still use a negative distinction, and say that they got the better of you, they got the jump on you, surprise you, or whatever. You get a D4 from it, and you get more plot points. You use your power sets. This is where you use some of these powers more defensively, like this durability. You could use, here you go, acrobatic master. So that's when you're defending. So you're rolling your attack, and the opponent rolls their roll, and it's whoever gets the total is the one that succeeds. And whoever gets the total gets to inflict or create using their effect die. So if Cap is throwing a punch at somebody, Cap gets a 15. His opponent, their total is a 12. Cap hits. You look at Cap's effect die, and that's how much stress is inflicted on his opponent. So it could be, D4, D6, whatever, and that's inflicted. So that's what that happens. One asterisk here is that there is an extraordinary success. If the attack is more than 5 from the defense, what the defense total is, you get to put your effect die up 1. So if Cap is throwing a punch at somebody and it is a 15, and his opponent rolls a 10 total, then Cap's effect die becomes a +1. So it steps up 1. If it was originally D8, it becomes a D10. This can also happen in multiples. If Cap rolled a 20 and his opponent rolled a 10, that's 10 between them. Cap's effect die would go up 2. So instead of being a D8, it would go D10, it would go D12. Also, with if the effect die of the opponent is higher than the effect die of the attacker, the effect die goes down 1. Even if the attacker's total is more, even much more, if the defender has a higher effect die, then the effect die of the attacker goes down 1. So let's say Cap got a 20 and his opponent got a 17. So Cap succeeds. Let's say Cap's effect die was D8, but the opponent had a D10 effect. Cap's effect die goes down 1, so it becomes a D6. So even if someone gets a higher total than you, or you get a higher total than them, you can still roll it back a little bit with a higher effect die. Again, when you roll this, you have to kind of take a look at it and figure out what's going to work best for you. So when you're attacked, you put together your defense. One other thing you can do is counterattack. If you are the defender and someone attacks you and they're it's been a while since anyone's done that. If you have a higher total, you can turn that back around on them, spending a plot point, and attack them instead. So if you're attacked and they attacked with a 17 and you got a 20 total, you could spend a plot point and turn that back on them, and your effect die then causes them stress or affects them, however. The house rule that I have is that the attacker has to roll an opportunity for you to activate to turn that around, and you still have to spend a plot point. In case of a tie, the book says that it is the attacker that wins, but in my game, my house rule is that the hero wins. In case of a tie, the hero wins. Yes, this has caused problems. So, hero wins in case of a tie. That should be it. That's pretty much how to resolve combat. Don't always think of it. Just a little bit of a hint here. Don't always think of it as you just have to punch somebody or blast somebody. There's, like in the comics, heroes don't always do a lot of punching. They can be a little more creative than that. And there's certainly in this game, this game does it really well, where you can intimidate somebody or talk somebody out of something, which is, a mental attack or an emotional attack. You can seduce other characters too. It's kind of left up to your imagination. There's not a lot that's out of bounds. If it seems like something might be a little hinky, then message me and see what I think about it. Chances are I'll probably say, yeah, go for it. Certainly there's lots of places where you can punch somebody or, blast somebody. Again, try to keep in mind that you're creating something, some kind of stress. While we're on this real quick, let me show you the milestones too. Every character has 2 sets of milestones. These are personal goals that you have that you kind of want to do. When you do one of these goals, when you accomplish one of these goals, you can add the XP to your total. Pretty much, you can declare this in your post. You can say that, hey, I did this, and I get a +1. I might tell you no, but it should be pretty clear cut. I mean, these are your goals of your character. Yeah, so like Iron Man here, leading tech, when you first shut down a power, you get a 1 XP. Generally, 1 XP, you can do these pretty much whenever during a scene. You can do it pretty much as much as you want. A 3 XP, that's a little more advanced. That's usually once per scene or per adventure. 10 XP is like a kind of a lifetime goal of your character, or at least one of, a few issues worth, and that's worth 10 XP. The ways you can use XP, the immediate use, it's a little crude, but if you want to use within an adventure, you have XP. You can use it as a plot point. If you're in an emergency or whatever, you can take 1 XP and convert it into a plot point and use it right away. There's a lot of work that goes into using XP, so maybe that's not the best way, but if it's an emergency, go for it. The other XPs, you can use those to do other things with your character and to unlock, as they say, other elements of the game. You could have other characters that come in and help you. You can move around your affiliations to something, you can switch around affiliations, something a little more agreeable. You can create new distinctions. You can move up power sets. You can even create some new power sets. All of this, though, has to have something in the narrative. If you're doing a lot of solo missions and you want to move around your affiliations, then, well, obviously it's going to help you to be solo, but you're not going to be able to just move it into having a higher team affiliation or something like that. If you're, in your specialties, you need to be using a stat a lot to, kind of simulate that you're exercising a lot or trying to move up those the stats that you're trying to use. So yeah, milestones. Milestones, these are sometimes a little unwieldy and sometimes they're a little weird. So if it seems like, it's kind of certain ways, certain paths that it's trying to take your character down. And these are fairly generic and they fairly follow the comic. But if you have some other ideas of some other milestones or some other goals that you want to give your character, feel free, and we can talk it out. Totally open to that. These milestones don't always work, so I'm happy to change them out or to change them up or whatever else we want to do with them. So don't be bashful about trying to come up with something else. Though, don't be bashful. Just don't try to change them just because they seem hard. Also, each adventure is probably going to have its own milestones. I know the campaign we're in right now is an Avengers one. Not everyone's an Avenger, but there are milestones, and there's its own thread for milestones to come up with, not just your own personal ones, but for ones for the team. That you can also use. Those milestones, if no one declares them as we go along, will also I'll reward those at the end of the scene or at the end of the adventure. So you'll have a number of XP as we go along, and I can even maybe in another thread I'll post some stuff about what you can use those XP on as we go along. So there's that. To use the XP. Also, some other stuff, some other resources that you might want to use XP. Yeah, it'll just go along with it. It'll all make sense. So, getting back to the dice pool and your own turn, There's one other thing that's absolutely cast in stone, and please, 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 please remember. If you don't remember, it's either it might disrupt the game, or at the very least, it's going to give me, the watcher, a distinct advantage. So always put ones aside and declare them as opportunities. But also, at the end of your turn, the end of your post, at the end of your turn, always, always, always pick who goes next. Always pick who goes next. There will be a list in another post, in another thread, that will be a list of all the characters that are in the currently in the scene. If they've already gone, their name will be crossed out. If they're in black, that's a player character. If they're in italics, that's who's up next. Pretty much any other. Oh, in parentheses, they're kind of out of the game. I put all that together. So, but look at that list and come up with who goes next. This is very, very important. In this game, there's not an initiative, and everybody doesn't just go at once. Pick someone to go next. It could be another player. It could be another. It could be an opponent. It could be an enemy. Why would you pick an enemy? This is where the strategy more than anything comes into the game. Is who you pick next to go. When the scene starts, when the action scene starts, I, the watcher, will pick one character to go first. It might be my own. It might be one of yours. And then it goes from there. So you could pick a teammate to go next, which would obviously give you the advantage because you'd be able to move before them. But whoever is the last person in the order in that round to go, they will then get the round will restart, and the last person who went will get to pick who goes next, who goes first in the next round. That could even be themselves. That could be another, if it's a bad guy, if all the bad guys have been pushed to the end, all the good guys are picking each other to go first, and it leaves all the bad guys at the end, then the bad guys could just pick themselves in the beginning of the next round, and all of them go. So they would get 2 turns in a row, and they would have, they'd all get to go before the heroes. So any ones that are left, they could all gang up on the heroes. So please keep that in mind, and always, always, always pick who goes next. If you don't pick, the house rule is that the watcher gets to pick. That could be a player, but more than likely it's going to be, one of the NPCs, because that gives the watcher a distinct advantage. So, yeah, all these resources are going to be in threads. You'll be able to see them. If you can't find anything, let me know. But they should all be out there. I have my own little symbols and kind of my way to organize stuff. There's also a character tracker thread that is going to be that's a thread that's in a game. You can go in there and you can record your the stress that you take and your trauma, which is like advanced stress, and we'll get to that later. Some other time. That's when you're really messed up. You could put your damage on there, your stress on there, and that's fine, but you don't really have to. Because I keep track in that list with the initiative list that you'll see. So that it makes it easier for me to track, and thereby it's going to be a lot easier for you to track too. The bad guys and stuff. So, but I put the bad guys on there. I try to put like where it may be if the bad guys are somewhere else, if they're located somewhere else or whatever. But pretty much it should be all laid out there pretty plainly. If you wanted to, you could track your plot points and say, where you got a plot point from, in what post or whatever. Plot points are hard to keep track of. They're really, really hard. If we were playing in person, everyone would like have a bowl or a pile in front of them of pennies or a token or something, and because plot points come and go all the time, and it's good. And I don't want to get down and have to argue anyone's itemization. So whatever you can do to keep track of your plot points always helps. I might even institute everyone having a running tally of their plot points as we go along. But whatever, we'll see. That should do it. That should do it. I think that's about it. I think that's at least a pretty thorough covering of the basics. there's more to it than that. Maybe not a lot more, but there's more to it. There's slight complexities, or it might get a little deeper, but for the most part, I think that's about it. And I think from there you can kind of figure it out. Again, just look at everybody else's posts and see what everybody else has done, and kind of go with that. Again, if you want to send me your dice pool before you take a turn, or just have me go over it. I'm not going to try to sabotage it or steer you wrong or anything. I'm trying to create this game and build this for everybody, just like everybody else is. So it's it's there for fun, and it's a story, and it's something that I personally am very excited about. I'm really into this campaign. It's going to keep going for as long as I have internet and a pulse. At least that's my plan. So the game comes and goes. Sometimes it goes a little slower, sometimes it goes a little faster. Anybody's invited to play. The RPOL site is free. You just have to sign up. Go to my Amazing Avengers game. There should be a request to join. I think my criteria is pick 3 basic heroes, and again, there's a request to join an RTJ thread that'll kind of run down a lot of the not prerequisites, but what you need to know when you're asking to join. And I can't imagine any reason why I'd say no. The game is designed for everyone to kind of come in and out. If you can play for a while, but you have to bail for whatever reason in real life, that's cool. You can come back in later. If you have to bail out in the middle of the scene, I will take your character over. I won't destroy him, but they'll more than likely be a hostage. Yeah, that's a little bit more like on the message boards. But you know what? Just go on there. Don't be afraid of it. It's free. It's fun. If you know me, you know how I do things, detail oriented. But I'm trying to make it fun for everybody. I'm not trying to confound anybody, contradict anybody, or upset anybody. Just trying to run this out. I've been waiting a long time to do this, and to get a role-playing game going online. Really excited about it. So I hope you can join us. I hope you dig the game. The game is really cool. Just get into it. My biggest advice is pick a character that you really like running. Just pick your favorite character and we'll fit them in. It's an Avengers-centric game, but it's not only Avengers. This is kind of an ad hoc Avengers team. Later on, we might do something with another team, X-Men, or I don't know, Defenders. Maybe what's another fun team? X-Men. Why did I say X-Men? Maybe not Fantastic Four because they're boring. But oh yeah, don't ask to use the Sentry. Just don't. Yeah, so just check out the game, man. I hope this video helps. If I'm posting it, then obviously it worked. I thank you very much for sitting through the whole thing. I hope it's been informative. I hope you join the game. I hope you have a good time. I hope we'll see you on there. I think that's it. So thanks a lot for sticking around. Thanks for checking this out, and we'll see you in the game. Thanks. See ya.